Hey guys, today we're going to be adding our own weapons into the zombie survival template, and if we get to it I will show you how to add some attachments as well. So the first thing you want to do is think about what kind of weapon you want to add. I'm going to add the SKS here that I have, and later on maybe a hollow sight. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into my weapons folder and open up the weapon info table. I'm going to find a weapon that's similar to the SKS. I think the starting rifle is kind of a semi-auto shot there, so I'm going to use that one. And that's the starting rifle, so I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm just going to call it, where's my, right there. I'm just going to call it SKS. I'm going to name it SKS here as well. Save that. Then I'm going to go into my weapon BP folder. I'm going to find the starting rifle right here, and I'm going to duplicate that because that's the closest thing to what I'm looking for. Call that SKS. I guess I could put a BP on the end of it. Then I'm going to open up my weapon table again, and I'm going to add that in for the blueprint. So what I just created there, my SKS BP. Now I'm going to save that. Then I'm going to open up my new blueprint I just created. And I'm going to go to third person mesh. And over here, the skeletal mesh, I'm going to go to my SKS one right here. Do the same thing for my first person. And then if you have custom animations for this weapon that you already have set up, you can add them in your animation class up here. So I do in this case, and I'm going to add them in. You don't have to add them in if you don't have them, but they're handy if you do. A lot of the kits come with them, or you can make your own. So we'll add them in and we'll click save. We'll go to our viewport. And sometimes the weapon doesn't match up exactly how you want it to. You can tweak that a little bit later on, but I'm just going to set it up real quick here. So as our third person muzzle and our first person muzzle, I'm just holding control to allow me to click both. And I'll just kind of set that in place best I can here. Just to really fine tune it, you can turn off the snap to grids settings up there. I'm just going to put it right about there. And later on, when we get the scope on it, we're going to adjust where it fires from, but that should be good enough for now. Click compile and save. And then I'm going to set that to this weapon here on the wall. So this is wall weapon 3. So I'm going to set that to be my weapon SKS. I haven't done this in a while, so we'll see if this works. SKS. And I'm just going to set the mesh so it looks like my gun. Let's see. So there's our SKS. And it should be working fine. If I switch to third person, it's there as well. Everything's working as it should be. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that scope on there. So I'll go back into my weapon blueprint, and I'm going to click on add component, and it's a static mesh, and it's a hollow scope or hollow sight. Hollow sight right there. And I'm going to duplicate that because I'm going to put one under first person and one under third person. So I'm going to select both of them by clicking on one, holding shift, and then selecting the other one as well. And I'm going to rotate this roughly where it's got to be. Don't know if I'll get it perfect, but I'm going to get it pretty close. guess you could put it wherever you want. You could put it back there, you could put it in front. Actually, let's put it back here. And this is the point where you're going to be aiming from. So, or looking through, sorry. In first person mode. So we'll try and line that up in here. We'll have to tweak this later on. So we'll put one of these in, drag it to the third person mesh and drag the second into the first person. I'm just going to call it hollow scope. No, I already have one. You can call it whatever you want. You could call it like third person hollow scope, first person hollow scope. And I usually assign it into a socket here. I'm just going to assign it to the root joint. I'm going to assign this one to the root joint as well. It may move it. Yeah, that way it sticks to the gun. I'm just going to give that a quick test. So yeah, that works pretty good. We do have to adjust it down a little bit. You see when I fire, it's not really right on, so let's go back and we'll give that a little adjustment. So we'll go down a little bit. Like you guys can tweak this setting to really fine tune it. I put it the wrong way. First person aiming point, gotta put it up. That's closer. So yeah, you guys can fine tune that in. Alright, the other thing I'm going to show you is how to tweak your gun so that if it's facing the wrong way, you can set up the correct socket for that. This one we locked out and it lines up pretty well with everything, but I'm going to show you how to do that right quick. So the first thing you're going to do is go into your skeleton. So we're going to find our skeleton in characters, mannequin, character, mesh, and open our skeleton up. And I am going to add under the right hand I'm going to add some new sockets here. So I'm going to add 2 new sockets. And I'm going to call one TP_SKS for third person. I'm going to go FP SKS for first person. And I know the AK sockets line up pretty good. And I know the right hand sockets line up good. So I'm going to copy the rotation and location. So its relative location I will copy to the third person, and the rotation that'll give me a good starting point. Then the first person, I think it's this one, I'm going to copy the location and my first person. And the first person one here. We'll copy them in and save it. Now our 2 socket names we're going to remember our first person SKS and our third person. Then we're going to go back to our weapon table where we created the new line in the data table here. And under the first person socket I'm going to type in FP_SKS, and under the third person under SKS. And also, if the weapon doesn't line up on your back, you can change the socket as well. So we'll check it out and make sure it does. Let's take a look. Alright, so in third person, when I switch that out, it lines up great. But if it doesn't, we can just create our own socket in the skeleton. I'll show you in a second how to do that. So you can actually create another stowed weapon socket and you could have it store somewhere else. Like if you're doing a pistol, you could create a pistol stowage and you could assign it to the hip. So we'll do that in another video. Alright, this would be the point where if your weapon really doesn't line up or if it's sideways, I'll show you how to change that. So we'll go to our third person and we'll assume that when you import your weapon it doesn't line up. So it'll look something like this. So you got your weapon imported, we'll say, and it looks kind of funny. It looks like this when you import it. That's okay because you can fix it through this weapon socket that we just created. So all you have to do is go back into your weapon socket right in here under your third person one, and you can actually rotate it in game to get it to whatever way you want it to. So I can rotate that back right about there, click save, and now my gun is the way it should be. Just a couple quick tips there to help you guys out, adding new guns in, adding some new things. Hopefully this helps some of you guys out. Have a great day.